So what is strategic performance measurement? Strategic performance measurement, or the short form is SPM, is an approach that makes an organization's strategic goals become more transparent to align with the executive and provides an ongoing mechanism to monitor the progress toward the goals through simple and intuitive performance measure. The strategic performance measurement can be both functional and dysfunctional for organizations. SPM can help organizations to define and achieve their strategic objective, align behavior and attitude, and ultimately having a positive impact on organizational performance.
There are four key elements of strategic performance measurement. First is aligning strategic objective to day-to-day operation metric. Strategic performance measurement creates a clear line of sight that links and integrates all levels of the organization, thus aligning strategic objective to day-to-day operation goal. At the highest level, strategic performance measurement measure overall progress toward the organizational vision and strategic goal. It can measure execution in individual part of the organization or alone of the value chain, which help identify those areas that are contributing to strategic goal and those that are not. This line of sight includes assessing how organizational measure influence individual and managerial performance. Second is develop performance measurement technique for reporting. Performance measurement technique consists of activity-based management, balanced scorecard, benchmarking, budgeting, EFQM model, non-financial model, performance prism, Six Sigma, and strategy mapping. For example, the balanced scorecard focuses on both financial and non-financial aspects of the business that help executives make smart trade-off between competing objectives. Third is make reporting easy and focus on metric that matter. The first step toward this goal is improving the structure, production, and consumption of report. Companies should also make the same simple metric available at all levels of the organization. Lastly is test and validate strategic decision. Strategic performance measurement provide a medium for senior leadership to test and validate organizational changes and strategic business decisions, and can also help the change management. For example, restructuring line of business, developing profit and loss statement for business unit and product, and transitioning from a sales focus.
There are several potential pitfalls in the design of performance indicator and measurement system. The first one is too many performance indicators. It is particularly true when performance metrics are not prioritized and no KPI have been dictated. Performance metrics must be assessed, estimated, and communicated to management, and different must be clarified or excuses invented. Too many interventions will divert time away from more important activity, and there is a risk that employee may focus on the easiest but less important rather than the more difficult but critical goal. Second is wrong performance measurement. For example, applying strict cost control in the company that sell luxury goods such as high-end automobile and accessory, this likely have a negative impact on the company. Third, too tight or too loose performance measure. Performance indicators that are too difficult to achieve can reduce employee motivation and encourage dysfunctional behavior such as gaming and data false representation. Performance measures that are too loose can have a negative impact on the performance. Benchmarking will help to prevent this. Internal benchmarking usually establish measure based on the previous period or develop measure in relation to the other department or division. This internal metric, however, may contribute complacency since many organizations must be compete with others. Lastly, hit and run performance indicator. This means that a successful indicator is developed and then it assumes that everything can take care of itself. Performance indicator needs a management framework to be an effective.
As I will explain about the aspect and the performance indicator in the global framework. Many organizations you recognize sustainability frameworks to monitor and report sustainability global reporting initiative framework.
The GRR is a global organization that promotes the use of the sustainability reporting as a way for organizations to become more sustainable and contribute to the sustainable development. The GRR framework, a reporting system that provides performance measure and method for measuring and reporting sustainability related impact and performance. GRR framework covers three areas, which are the environmental, economy, and the social. Under economy, there are three, which are the economic performance, market presence, and indirect economic impact. The environmental, there are several aspects, which are the material, water, energy, biodiversity, product and services, emission, effluent, and waste, and lastly, transport. For social, there are divided in the four categories. The first one is the human right. The second one is the labor and decent work practices. The third one is the society, and the lastly is the product responsibility. Under social human right, the aspects are investment and procurement practices and child labor. The social labor and decent work practices, there are employment, occupational health and safety, training and education aspect. Next, under social society, the aspects are community, corruption, and anti-competitive behavior. Lastly, under social product responsibility, there are customer health and safety aspect and the marketing communication aspect. The performance indicator will be explained by next presenter, Faiz.
Apply accessibility principle to reporting and managing decision making. Environmental performance can be recognized with several aspects. The first one is material used in production. The performance indicator that we can use for this aspect is percentage of material used from recycled input material. For example, paper and plastic. Second is water quality and resources. Percentage and total volume of water recycled and reused is the performance indicator that's used to measuring the impact of this aspect. Last one, emission, influence, and waste. Total weight of waste by type and disposal method, and total direct and indirect greenhouse. We continue for the social performance. The aspect that we can recognize and measure are firstly, investment and procurement practice. The indicator that used to measure the impact is percentage of significant supplier and contractor that have undergone screening on human rights and take action. Secondly, child labor for the company. Operation identify that being risk to the child labor and measure taken to contribute to the elimination of child labor can be as an indicator of performance. Lastly, employment. Employment refers to the amount of person run the company, and the indicator that can be used is total number and rates. The last performance that we can measure and recognize is economic performance. The first aspect can be measured is economic performance. The performance indicator that we can use is significant financial assistance received from government. Next is market presence. Policy, practice, and proportion of spending on local-based supplier at significant location is the performance indicator can be used. Lastly, indirect economic impact. And the indicator performance is development and impact.
Next is environmental performance evaluation. Environmental performance evaluation is an internal process and management tool designed to provide management with reliable and verifiable information on an ongoing basis to determine whether an organization's environmental performance is meeting the criteria set by management of the organization. It also to assist in identify its environmental aspect, determine which aspect it will treat as significant, setting criteria for its environmental performance, and evaluating its environmental performance against these criteria. The indicators are used in environmental performance evaluation to depict the vast quality of environmental data of firm in a comprehensive and concise manner. It also applied to set absolute material and energy data in relation to other variables in order to increase the informational value of quantitative data. It also provides decision-maker in firm with an overview of relevant progress, but also highlight problem area. There are two general categories of indicator for environmental performance evaluation. First is environmental performance indicator is provide information about management's efforts influence the environmental performance of organizations' operation. And second is environmental condition indicators. It provide information about environmental performance of the operation of the organization. It also relate to policy, people, practice, procedure, decision, and action at all levels of the organization.
So in chapter 2, we have learned that the balanced scorecard are usually built around 4 key perspectives, which is financial perspective, customer perspective, internal business process perspective, and also learning and growth. While these 4 perspectives are likely to suit the many profit-oriented companies, and it is important that an organization balanced scorecard perspective reflect their strategic priorities. But how do organizations reflect sustainability as a strategic priority in their balanced scorecard? So, a sustainability balanced scorecard, which is SBSC, can be developed using several different approaches. The first approach, which is adding an additional sustainability perspective into the balanced scorecard, may also be appropriate where sustainability is considered as a part of the business core strategy and important to create a competitive advantage. This additional perspective is needed to focus managers' attention on sustainability as a core corporate value. A business has important sustainability issues from the point of view of reputation or impact. Resources allocated to the sustainability are large as this perspective will emphasize the link between the use of these resources and strategy. When an additional sustainability perspective is added into the balanced scorecard, it is important that this wraps around the other perspective, ensuring that the economic, environment, and social impacts are linked to the relevant measures in each of the original perspective. The second approach where we can integrate the sustainability into existing balanced scorecard perspective. It is similar to what we have done when we going through the 4 perspective in the previous balanced scorecard. But in this case, the question will be asked in the sustainability context. The first perspective is, do customer goals take into account the interests of sustainability stakeholders? Second perspective is, do internal goals estimate the environmental impact such as waste, energy, impact on the water and air? And the third perspective is, does the learning and growth perspective help promote sustainability values and culture? The last perspective is, do the talent-related goals or human resource scorecard take into account the labor best practice and what could be the impact on the community?
We move to the fundamental issue, body and strategic performance measurement that include sustainability measure. First issue concern whether strategic performance measurement is a tool for a strategy implementation or formulation. Sustainable measure can provide valuable feedback for the double loop learning that could help in the process of the strategy formulation based on the external environment. However, this requires the company to use the strategic performance measurement to adjust their strategy. The second issue pertains to whether the most suitable approach to sustainable measure is to treat them collectively or in a separate category, such as environmental, social, or economy. A company approach could determine how these issues are integrated into the business activities. This suggests that future research could focus on how the role and the composition of the strategic performance measurement change as a company adopts a strategy embracing different elements of the sustainability. The related issue is whether sustainability activity and measure should be owned by a separate unit in the company or delegated fully to business managers. Moreover, additional research could investigate how sustainability measures are used not only by the top management, but especially by the operating manager and the workforce. These are practical issues that need to be addressed when incorporating sustainability measure into strategic performance measurement.
Hi, I am Hafiza and I will proceed with the performance measures, which is a practical framework. To establish a performance measurement system, there are some elements need to be followed for each measure, and we will relate it with a passenger train company as an example for the performance measures. For the first one, the title of performance measure, which is the punctuality, the percentage of trains arriving at their destination on time. Next, the purpose of performance. Basically, the strategy objective is to provide comfortable, reliable and punctual services to passengers. They compete with other train companies, cars and airlines. Punctuality is seen as a key competitive level and therefore must be measured. There are other performance measures affected, which is the safety checks and speed limits take priority. And who is held responsible to it? Basically, the operations director. Next is the target and how it is determined. The target is detected by the railway timetable. The timetable should be reviewed twice a year to look for ways of reducing journey times to keep the company competitive with improvements in competent transport. Next, how often should the measure be reported? Basically, on a weekly basis. And the last one is the reporting and action. The operations director will report performance on monthly basis. The board together with plans for service improvement.
The performance indicators are relevant to the following models and theories. Human resource management. What type of people that should be recruited and how are they to be motivated, appraised and rewarded to maximize the chance of good organizational performance. Performance measures are needed, for example, to monitor the effectiveness of the training, job performance, job satisfaction, recruitment and the retention. Stakeholder analysis recognize that the different stakeholders have different views on what constitutes good performance. Sometimes what stakeholder want is different to what the mission statement suggests as the purpose of the organization. This can be a particular problem when the stakeholders are the key players. A value chain set out an organization activities and inquire on how the organization can make profit and where is the value added. For example, value might be added by promising fantastic quality into the product. Product life cycle. Different performance are required at different stage of life cycle. In the early days of the product's life, it is important for the business to reach a successful growth trajectory and to stay ahead in the market. At the maturity stage, where there is a great competition and the market is no longer growing, performance will depend on the low cost per unit and maintaining the market share to enjoy the economies of scale. And the last one, which is the information technology, how could the new technology help performance and measures performance? Remember that the sophisticated new technology does not guarantee better performance as costs can easily outweigh the benefits.
There is no list of metric perfect for all company all the time. And we have learned that determining the right metric for a particular company study is part of art and part of science. First, metric must be tied to the strategy objective and must be able to translate into business unit, goal and individual action. There should also be benchmarkable, allowing senior leader to compare the performance across client segment, product and division. The company should begin by focusing on metrics that can be collected using existing or simple to implement process and system. Second, aggregate the metric to some degree and the people can slice and dice the data for different views. That means the company should get feedback from all level management. Lastly, implement the metric as soon as sufficient data is available. The organization not become stalled by trying to get the perfect set of metric. They should implement the metric if get sufficient of data. Good metric are good enough.
There are two external factors affecting performance measurement. First is economic and marketing condition. Any performance measure that is used by business will need to be flexible to allow for peaks and true in economy and market conditions that are beyond the control of business or specific employee or manager. The action of competitor must also be considered. For example, demand may decrease if a competitor reduces its price or launches a successful advertising campaign. Okay, second is government regulation. The government can have a direct effect on working of a private sector organization by introducing regulation or by having departments that monitor business activity, such as the Competition Act, which prohibits anti-competitive agreement and any abuse of a dominant market position. Other regulations that the government can enforce include taxation, which is tax on alcohol and petrol with intention of reducing consumption, or fine and quota, which is quota or maximum are set to limit production and if exceed, fine are imposed. For example, fishing quota are set to prevent overfishing of the seas, and if a trawler bring in too much, then a fine is incurred.
I will proceed with the challenges with implementing strategic performance measurement. First and foremost is the need to build executive buy-in. Strategic performance measurement focuses on performance indicators rather than traditional performance drivers, and executives need to agree on tracking, reporting, and following these metrics. To ensure this buy-in, the CEO or CFO must own the initiative and make sure that executives accept the new or modified metrics. That said, there must be a reasonable transition period, usually 3 to 6 months depending on the readiness and maturity of the organization, during which executives report on both the old and new metrics while they get comfortable with the new reporting. And another common hurdle to strategic performance measurement adoption is ineffective top-down communication on the importance, purpose, and objectives of strategic performance measurement. The root of this problem is often that senior leaders have not clearly defined the strategy for themselves and therefore cannot articulate it convincingly to others. Not surprisingly, this leads to confusion about leaders' goals and the rationale behind strategic performance measurement adoption, and middle management may interpret strategic performance measurement as just one more report and not a strategic initiative. Senior leaders need to develop something akin the classic elevator pitch.
I will explain about the way in effective strategic performance measurement. The performance measurement must be integrated with the overall strategy of the business. The process will show the business how to take an aspirational objective and turn it into a specific objective that has clarity in the purpose, which is a single objective and not a combination of many things. When performance expectation and company goals are not explicitly outlined, it can be challenging for the companies to know whether they are success in their product. Next, there must be a system of regular feedback and review of the actual result against the original plan and the performance measure themselves. Effective performance feedback is essential to a strong performance management strategy. It works to reinforce strong skill set and boost desired feedback while providing an opportunity for guiding business towards a clear improvement and development. Therefore, companies can maintain their product in the market. Third way is the performance measurement must be comprehensive. It needs to include the range of factors that contribute to the organization's success, such as competitive performance, quality of service, and innovation. This requires a range of the financial and non-financial indicators. Therefore, companies can develop a strategy to manage the risks and opportunities that help them to create innovative new products and services. Lastly, the system must be owned and supported throughout the organization. The implementation must be top-down so that individuals setting strategy can determine the objective and develop appropriate top-level measures. This should filter down to the rest of the organization. Other levels throughout the organization should set their own measure in consultation with the level above, and this must be consistent with the top level measure. This can help companies to identify environmental and social changes that impact on the organization and its stakeholders, which makes strategic performance management more effective.
Lastly, we will discuss about the case study of strategic performance measurement. The case study is about US Bank Holding Company. New US regulations required an international bank with large US operations to create a US Bank Holding Company for all its business units, which included a commercial bank, retail bank, wealth management unit, auto lending unit, and investment banking arm. In the past, these business units reported unit results independently with little uniformity. But the new holding company structure required that these business units report results as a bank holding company, so results could be rolled up. The new CEO settled on the 3 strategy objectives, which is creating a common language among the business units, driving consistency of reporting across business units, and using uniform monthly reporting to understand performance across the businesses on a regular basis. One of the big changes for this institution was to delve much deeper into non-financial metrics, such as client segments, products, and operations. In the past, it had focused only on financial income statements. The executive also wanted to evaluate switching the business strategy from branch-based sales to product-based sales that required organizational changes and the implementation of new metrics to measure profitability by branch, client, and product. Strategic performance measurement offered a way to stress test the idea and various scenarios before full implementation. A prototype of the reporting templates for the executives was tested and refined before being moved into production. That's all from us. Thank you for listening.